What going on guys, Commander here, and welcome to a new video where I'm going to be reviewing Cyberpunk 2077. Now Cyberpunk isn't a game I ever thought I would play. I watched the trailers and while it looked like a good game, I didn't really have much hype for it. The main selling point to me was that one of the characters in the game was Keanu Reeves, or a character that was played by Keanu Reeves. And that didn't really appeal to me because while I like Keanu Reeves, I judge a game based upon what it brings me as much as like what I play, so gameplay, story and graphics. So I didn't really have any interest in playing the game from watching the mainline trailers. Then it came to the game's release and we all know how that went. Endless bugs, broken beyond belief, and most people who bought the game wanted their money back and actually got their money back. At that point I thought, well, it looks like it's a game that I would never play anyways because of how broken it is, and that's just solidified it for me. However, I saw it on discount a few months ago at half price on Steam, and I thought, wow, what's this game like now? Because it must be doing something if there's quite a few positive reviews on Steam and they're putting it on discount. So I watched a few YouTube videos on it and people seem to say that while it's not perfect, it's a huge improvement since its initial release in 2020, and because of that I thought, well, let's give it a shot and see what happens. Well, let me start off by saying this game is not at all what I expected. It's not perfect by any means, but I really enjoyed my time playing this game. The gameplay for the most part was solid, and the characters are really deep and gritty and interesting to interact with, and the story is one of the best I think I've ever seen in a video game for a long time. So let's talk about the story first of all. Now this entire section is going to have spoilers in it, so there will be timestamps in the video so you can skip to that if you like. It's only because the way I'm doing this is because I can't talk about the story properly and in depth enough without talking about spoilers. So, to start off with, you can either be a corporation lackey, a street kid, or a nomad. And looking at the differences between the three starts, the only major differences that I can see is that some of the speech you're able to use to get yourself into and out of situations is different. Now, I personally went for the corpo, and I think that's personally one of the best starts for the main story. But I bear in mind I haven't used any of the others yet, so I don't really know that for certain. So after getting past the prologue, you meet up with your friend Jackie and find a job from a gangster by the name of Dex, who wants to steal top secret technology from the head of Arasaka, which is the main corporation in the game, and the head of Arasaka is a bloke called Yorinobu. And after some unfortunate incidents, Jackie passes away, and you end up with the technology inside your head. The bad part of this is that the technology has a consciousness of an ex-rock star and terrorist called Johnny Silverhand, played by Keanu Reeves, who takes over parts of your brain to create a split personality between you and him, and it's up to you to find the person who can take the chip out of your head without pulling your brain out with it, consequently killing you in the process. Now that's putting the story in very limited words, but believe me, the story is so much better than that. The immediate story after you have the chip in your head and find out what situation you're in, you have three different storylines, all of which will hopefully help you find what you're looking for. And while you need to go through all the storylines, it takes you on such a journey with each of the characters that you kind of want to stay with them. This game does such a great job of setting up people who seem like they're going to be side characters, who you only be with for 1 or 2 missions, to spend so much time with them and give them so much depth that you feel like you've known them your entire life. And it's done at a really good pace as well, so it doesn't feel like it's rushed. And I think half that is down to not being able to play their missions one after the other, a bit like how GTA 5 does it with its storyline. Take Panam for example. You find her through Rogue as one of the storylines at the start. When you first meet her, I thought she was going to be this character whom we would meet to get to where we're supposed to be. But no, we go through such a journey with her about where she came from and where she wants to go and her problems she has and what to do about them, that we feel such a connection to her. And when you finish her mainline missions, I was a little disappointed that I wasn't going to do any more missions with her because she was a really enjoyable character to play alongside and I just wanted to know more about her. That's what this game does really well. It adds so much depth to each and every character that you come across, what their motivations are and why they should help you. Like I said, one of the best sets of stories I've ever seen in a game for a long time. The side missions, although can be a little bit repetitive, are also really fun to play. There are lots of people that have these little side storylines. They've got nothing to do with the main line stories, but have also got stories within themselves anyway. and most of them are really fun and add more characters for you to connect with and to build up development with. And that's why I love this game's story so much. Even the side characters like Rogue, the developers have managed to give her such depth to understand her character, as well as her motivations, which is not something I'm used to in modern games. So now on to gameplay. This is what really killed the game back when it launched. Visual bugs everywhere, including characters randomly going to T-pose, characters' bodies not being in the right place, cars flying everywhere, dumb NPCs, broken cameras, you name it. If there was a bug, it would be in this game's launch. However, that was back in 2020, and we're now in 2022. Most if not all of the previous bugs are gone. Granted, there are a few visual bugs I noticed. So, for example, when you're playing a Takamura mission, he's doing a leaning animation in the middle of the road, and then his body is teleported to a railing, which is where he's supposed to have been doing that animation from the start. But if that's the biggest issues with the game, I have very little to complain about. Especially when there are games like GTA 5, where when you're playing the online mode and you enter a structure, the game can just break, just randomly, just like that, and doesn't load in properly. You can enter like your bunker, for example, and everything will just go black. You think it's loading, you could be there for 2 hours and just nothing. You'll have to restart GTA entirely. I've just recently started playing GTA 5 again, and it's always been the same. Right from its launch all the way up until currently. I went into my warehouse a couple of times recently, and just entered through the front door and just broke. The game just broke instantly. So it's what the problems are in Cyberpunk 2077 is small fry in comparison, and it's nothing game breaking. Gunplay is very solid. There are plenty of guns to choose from, like shotguns, pistols and ARs, as well as sniper rifles. But there are also different variations to those weapons, like shock, lethal and smart, which suit different people differently, but it also suits different situations differently as well. Gunfights are really fun as well, especially when you have so many different variations of grenades. Like, for example, if you have a toxic grenade, you can throw it into a big group, and that'll take some damage off of them before you storm in and finish off with your shotgun. Or you can go in all guns blazing with your frags and your AR. Or you can sit on a nearby building and start sniping everyone, so then you can walk in without having to fight anyone at close combat. The hostile NPCs are generally really fun to play with as well, especially when you're in the middle of a gunfight showdown and then you have an enemy coming at you from the side with an axe, forcing you to think quickly to take him or her out before continuing to fire on the main group. The only thing I would say is that I wish there was more variation between the enemies. Pretty much as far as I've seen, the normal NPC variants is pistol, AR, shotgun and melee. I would love to see a couple snipers shooting at me from up above one of the buildings, or even add rocket launchers into the game and add that to the gunfights. Just add more to your situation and more randomness to your encounters. To compare, I love playing around in Halo Infinite's open world, about to take on a squad of hostiles and right in the middle of the battle get attacked by a jackal sniper, force you to pull back and regroup. It's not an essential feature in Cyberpunk to have, but I would love it if they did add it in. It would make combat in the open world a lot more diverse and make me more interested for longer. The sound design in this game is also a highlight. From the sounds of the guns to the normal bustle of Night City, the sound team did an amazing and outstanding job with this game. And while it's not on Call of Duty or Halo level, it's definitely very close. And you can hear very clearly what gun you're firing, or by just the sound of it. And you can feel like you're walking around in Night City just from listening to the ambience. I feel like I can close my eyes and feel like I'm actually in a city, in Night City myself, just from the ambience. Vehicles, however, are not so much fun to use, mainly just because I find them really hard to control. Now, maybe it's just me, but I'm used to playing GTA 5, where I can literally fly through gaps between cars at high speeds without crashing hardly at all. However, with Cyberpunk, I feel like if I'm travelling at high speeds and I just tap the steer button, I feel like I'm going to spin out of control, and in a lot of cases I actually do spin out of control, which isn't fun on large open world maps, where you have to go from point A to point B at quite large distances a lot. The only good thing is that there's a solution to that with teleport terminals, where you can teleport to other areas of the game with ease, or on the map with ease. So, while the vehicle handling does annoy me, there's another way around Night City, so it doesn't annoy me a huge amount, but it does get on my nerves when I just want to just drive from point A to point B across the entirety of the map just in my car, and I find the vehicles really hard to handle. Now onto graphics, which is where my main complaint with the game comes from. But before I get started, I do just want to say this game is visually stunning. Night City looks amazing, like London but 50 years in the future, which is what I assumed the sort of feel they were going for, and they absolutely nailed it. The models for the characters are really good as well. They look exactly like normal people but from a futuristic world. Even the NPCs with face mods like the Maelstrom characters. While creepy, they look really cool as far as designs are concerned. However, my main problem is more with the optimization of the graphics. Now, I by no means have a potato computer. I have a Ryzen 3700X with 16 gigs of RAM and a RTX 2070. So, not amazing, but could definitely run this game decently on a spec-by-spec basis. However, I think this game has been really badly made for AMD CPUs. Now, I didn't expect to be running this game at Ultra 4K with ray tracing set to max, but I was expecting this game to run at like a decent medium sort of settings with low RTX. But with everything set to low and at 4K, I was sat as 40 FPS, and only when I set the quality down to 1440p will I get a solid 60, which is a real shame because the game I can see with RTX on, as well as ultra high graphics, the graphic fidelity of that game at ultra max settings is so good, and it could look like a really nice game when playing in Night City, but at all low settings it's just disheartening because it looks good at low settings, don't get me wrong. You can see the gameplay on screen now. Granted, it looks good, but it's still disheartening because I know that it's not what it's supposed to look like, and I've not got a bad PC by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I don't know if it's because I have an AMD CPU. Apparently the game doesn't optimize very well for it, and it's better on Intel, so I'll download it on my laptop, which has an Intel CPU, to see how high I can get the settings and see if it's an AMD issue or whether it's a game-wide issue. And whatever I find on my laptop, I'll put on screen now. Okay, so I've just gone back over to Cyberpunk on both my PC and now on my laptop, and personally I didn't see much of a difference in performance, which I was actually quite surprised by. What you see on the screen now is a side-by-side comparison of both my laptop and my PC, playing the same two side quests in the same area to make the test as fair as possible. Now, the only difference in quality settings is that VSync is set to 60 on my PC and 72 on my laptop. Now, this is only because my laptop is 144Hz and it doesn't have a 60 FPS VSync option. However, to combat that, I increased the settings to get my FPS as close to 60 as possible. The only difference in specs is that my laptop is an 11th gen i7 with an RTX 3070, while my PC is a Ryzen 7 3700X and a RTX 2070. So not huge amounts of difference. Now, you could argue with great credulity that the spec difference is quite big. However, I'm not playing on my PC at native 4K, but rather at 1080p, same as my laptop. So you would think that you would get more FPS for lower resolution. On idle and in combat, my PC and my laptop actually surprised me by playing near 55 to 60 FPS in both sides on both devices. Now, Cyberpunk has released a new update, or a few new updates, since me completing the campaign, so maybe optimization has been fixed and has been adjusted for different systems. But I just jumped onto my PC now, just while writing this little bit of the script, and it's actually playing really well. Now, it might just be a fluke, and I need to keep testing. However, do take into account that what you're seeing on the screen at the moment is 1080p, which is not ideal for a PC that is at natively 4K. Right, now I have to do some further testing, keeping all of the settings the same, but changing my resolution to 1440p. It put my FPS down to 51 FPS, and putting it all the way back up to 4K tanked my FPS down to 30. Now, staying at 4K, but lowering my settings down to medium preset with no motion blur because it's stupid, I'm pretty much getting a solid 50 FPS, which is more than playable and satisfactory for me. So I think they have been doing some optimization tweaks since I was playing the story last, and writing the main part of the script because this comparison section was written separately, which is good to see 4K at medium settings while having to turn some settings down to get ray tracing, which is pretty much what you expect, or what I expect from the specs of my PC. So, like I said from the start, this game is much better than the mess it was in at launch, and recently they've announced DLC for the game, which I'm very happy about. This game is not at all what I expected. The game for the most part is solid, the story is deep and gritty and keeps you wanting more. Graphically the game is stunning, but it's not optimized properly. However, the sound design makes the game really immersive as well. So that's about all I have time for in this review video here. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you do enjoy, don't forget to smash that like button, hit that subscribe for more awesome gaming content. If you have any other ideas of videos that I can, or games that I can review, leave them in the comment section down below, because I want to try and do more reviews rather than gameplay commentaries, because I don't think my style, as far as playing games, works well with a live commentary, unless I'm doing something like just random stuff, like let's say I'm playing GTA and doing random stuff on Minecraft or Halo or whatever, where there's not actually a story I've got to follow, it's just me messing about in the game. So if you've got any other games that I can review, or you want me to play through and review, then leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll see if I'll get onto them and see if I can do a review on them. I've got a couple games on my checklist that I want to get through as well, so keep an eye out for those. After all that, hope you've enjoyed, and I shall see you all later. Bye!